Let's dance, asshole.
Oh boy. Oh boy, guys. How are we? How's everybody doing? I'm a fucking legend. Welcome in. Thanks for coming. It was fun seeing you yesterday. And by yesterday, I mean today. For those of you that didn't tune in to the NSP stream that I was on earlier, it should be available on YouTube soonish. Sooner than his normal turnaround, I think. But how's everybody doing? Who's beaten this game?
Let's dance, asshole.
Subtext. You missed 95% of the stream? You didn't miss much. No, it was actually probably a fantastic conversation, but definitely check it out. Definitely check it out. I'll link the VOD and stuff like that on Twitter and on my YouTube but turned out good. I think I converted a lot of people that were really certain about the way that things were, that aren't anywhere near certain anymore. I do think a lot of people may have let explanation videos determine what's happening for them. The most galaxy brain thing that this game didn't actually end, by the way. It's all an illusion. Don't look up. Yeah, man. I didn't hear it. Did we confirm that Rufus is Saruf? Some people are somehow doubting it. Okay. If it's not, it is the worst red herring ever. I will say that as much as I don't like some of the localization choices made, like, and I don't want, like, okay, so in Japanese, Saruf is absolutely just a straight up anagram for Rufus. Like, there's no vagueness to it. It's a little bit too on the nose. English players can sort of be like, oh, yeah, that's what they're getting at. It feels like that's what that means. But, like, it's very, very firmly painted in Japanese. You know? JD in the Shell, thank you for the follow. Sparkling Mausoleum, thank you for the follow. I gotta say, I think it's all live stream shenanigans. I would, so, I think that's a component. I think Aerith is, at the end of the game, operating through the live stream. I don't think Cloud is living in two worlds. I think Cloud is being shown a version of reality that will prevent him from falling into despair. But that it's not like he's living in some kind of dual reality. I do think that I think it's related to livestream White and Black. Well, definitely Katie in the Shell. However, I do think that functionally the worlds created when you break Destiny is a hard confirmation of you know, some interpretation of multiverse. I know that's a loaded term, but it's technically fine. It's technically continuity, timeline, world, multiverse, all of that, live stream, all of that describes what's happening, like factually. And the language, you can't just like pin this all on Sephiroth and say, hey, you know, Sephiroth's lying when he says that there's multiple worlds. Like, there are multiple worlds. And that have sometimes, you know, visitors from the world that we're playing the game in, you know, like, whether that means there's copies, I personally don't think so. I don't think there's copies of each character. I think each person has a singular soul. Yeah, I don't so okay, that's an important distinction that Shady in the Shell is making. It's easy to say multiverse, and because of what's in recent media, people automatically assume like multiple timelines, unlimited eras, unlimited clouds. I think that multiple timeline is technically a correct statement that describes the internal landscape of the world of Final Fantasy VII. Multiple clouds, I don't think that's the right description. Multiple Aeriths, multiple Zax. There's no way that the multiversal, construct is the same as the way that, the MCU would work, or Everything Everywhere All at Once works. It isn't that, well, for lack of a better word, coherent. And the other thing that I think was the take that most people caught me on, but I think there's some, I think with really close examination, the layers break apart, and that's that the world that has accepted its fate, which we previously referred to as the Terrier world, all of those dog breeds that we see are in that world. I don't think each dog breed represents a different world. I think that world is starting to fall apart, or it's starting to change to reflect the decisions and the memories of its occupants. If you watch a lot of the explanation videos, they characterize the different worlds as products of Zack's decisions. All of them do, really. All the major explainer videos. And I think one did it, and then other people sort of followed suit. But that doesn't actually track with the way that scene plays out. But I have a video on it, coming out. I've been waiting for Max to finish the game, which I'm hoping he does tonight or tomorrow. And I think that world is that world is, it is a continuity. I don't think it's the afterlife. I think it's distinct from the afterlife. So it's not. So when people were saying they're in the live stream, most of the time they were talking about a Sixth Sense sort of situation where that's the afterlife. This is, and that we're just seeing red herrings in the afterlife. That's not what's happening either. So what they kind of did is leaned into all the major theories and made some of them true, but the world that has decided to accept its fate, where Aerith has squirreled Zack away, and that world is very much catered around Aerith. All of the characters that are the focus, and even the ones that are just there, but they're there, are centered around Aerith. Kyrie has a special relationship with Aerith. In fact, she's the only member of the party that Kyrie has a previous history with. In The Kids Are Alright, a Turk's Side Story, Kyrie talks about her relationship with Aerith. Biggs, of all the Avalanche trio, has a special relationship with Aerith because of the orphanage. He essentially grew up next to her house. In Traces of Two Pasts, their relationship, Aerith and Biggs' relationship, is explored. There aren't characters that are heavily highlighted that don't have a very significant and special relationship to Aerith's memories. All of the NPC dialogue, there are NPCs there too, but they're all people that know Aerith, like Oates, Miss Folia, all of that stuff. So in the interlude sections, which are the segments that, you know, that the Zack chapters, all of those, I think, are taking place in a world that was created by breaking destiny, and that world is a timeline. It is a continuity. It is based on memory, and it is reflective, most primarily, of Aerith. So, it does not meet a lot of the, I think, criterion that people are afraid of from the multiverses. You know? Was started by Aerith saving Zack? Maybe. I think it was probably started by Sephiroth. I think this is initially Sephiroth's doing, and then Aerith has intervened. And part of the reason I believe that is because of the White Whispers. So we know that the Whispers are Sephiroth. I mean, that's, and we've been calling that since 2020, right? The Whispers are designed to match the robed clones. They have Sephiroth's attacks. They use his voice sometimes. All of the cinematic language lets us know Whispers equal Sephiroth. It's something that Sephiroth has done to the live stream. Why are the White Whispers, which are Aerith's Whispers, still retaining that form? And I'll tell you, it's because the form came first. Aerith's purification came second. Aerith is purifying Genova's influence on the live stream, which is a really apt thematic metaphor for Final Fantasy VII. The fact that the Whispers are white but don't change form is foreshadowing of Cloud's journey thematically. That's my take on it anyways. Even before he absorbed them, I do think that there is like an issue with temporal meaninglessness outside of the singularity stuff. So it is unfortunate, but I think once we got into the singularity, the before after time stuff kind of loses some of its meanings. I hate to bring up time as a flat circle, but I think so. Restore live stream, restore Cloud's mind, etc. Could we say the Whispers in Remake were gray? Sure, yeah. And I think that as the completion, of Sephiroth's influence has strengthened, which it has, they get darker and darker. And part of that is that he's absorbing these worlds, right? So in the ending cinematic, well, not the ending cinematic, but in the cinematic where we see Sephiroth outside the Forgotten Capital, where he says, "Pray, Aerith, pray," or "Good Aerith, pray," meaning that that's part of his plan, is for her to be praying. And he also makes it clear that he wants Cloud to witness, her death. He says, you just need a little push. Here's my blessing. People saying all the mystery is gone or wild. No, there's so much more. That's not Sephiroth. The White Whisper is definitely not controlled by Sephiroth. Yeah. Those are Aerith. Those I think are actually, that's pretty clearly Aerith. So some things give us an indication that they have like the rainbow effects around them when they're doing things, but it takes a while for those effects to really show up until the end of the game, in which case every time the White Whispers show up, there's Aerith's signature rainbow coloration. So like when the White Whispers take Zack out of his final battle into that white space, and he shows up in an intact church, you know, same effect as the goddess in the Loveless play. Do you feel like the last title and ending will change a lot, or believe the devs it will lead into AC and so on? It kind of depends on how positively or negatively it's taken overall. I do feel like the Metacritic score, even though a lot of the Metacritics are, this is the best game I've ever played, I wish it had a different ending. I think even though that is sort of the case, I think that the Metacritic score enough probably empowered them to just stick with maybe what their main plan is. But like if tomorrow, you know, Max Dude's like, this was awful. If we don't get hard confirmation that Aerith is alive in the DLC, I'm not playing part 3. You know, like, they might change it up or something. I don't think that'll happen though. I think the main plan is that the focus of the game is Cloud's identity still. Do you think that Genesis' role could be healing those who have degradation and survive, i.e. Roche? That sounds wonderful. I don't think so. Where I think we'll see Genesis is in the DLC that if you earnestly believe any statement saying, oh, we're definitely not doing DLC for Rebirth, you are incorrect. Like, they said that about a remake, they said that about 16, and 16 had a door that clearly led to a DLC chapter in the OG game. Hamaguchi said that they would consider it. I'm a F fucking legend. He did mention. Did you notice that during the ending, during the pillar scene with Biggs dying, the Whispers came in and transformed him? Yeah, actually. Yeah. Yeah. Sort of reverting. So, I think that one of the takeaways that a lot of people had was that in the end, what's happening, and I will start playing this video game soon, and I'm gonna start with chapter 4, and we're gonna like look real detailed at some of the lore, and wildly, the lore that you guys probably want from me, you know, starts like pretty late game. So I do ask that you kind of just be patient with me as I start from 4 and do a chapter by chapter each time. I promise you'll find stuff, or, you know, I'll point out stuff that is interesting. And if you know it all, you know, congrats. But I think that, you know, probably won't know every little bit. Yeah. Something to remember about this too is it's like, I've watched this ending maybe 2 or 3 times a day, every day, the last 2 months. Sometimes more in a day. I've watched it in multiple languages. But my takeaway about the final scene is that, and I'm just, you know, kind of laying out the groundwork so that you kind of know the thesis statement, and then you can wait for my video to, which I think cashes the check that I'm writing here. You know, with this thesis is that what's happening at the end is Cloud is being fed a version of events by Aerith that prevents him from falling into despair. And why is that important? Despair is the main mechanic by which Sephiroth completes the reunion. And it's the, I mean, and this is AC lore. Like, if you read On the Way to a Smile episode Shinra, it describes the mechanics very clearly of geostigma. And the reason geostigma will affect people is because of their despair. It's a literal thing. It feeds on their despair. The game goes way out of its way to paint Sephiroth as somebody that is feeding on the despair of these worlds that he's destroying. Like, that's the purpose of Breaking Destiny, is that he's created all these pocket worlds so that they can end, he can consume their life stream. And we see that happen actively in chapter 14 outside the Forgotten Capital. We see one of the yellow, portals, the yellow lines open into a portal, life stream pours out and turns into Black Whispers. Like, Junie Tunes, thank you for the 5 gift subs. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm and if you happen to be in chat and you want to look, you want to thank Junie Tunes for ad-free viewing, please do. So, but my point is that we get this concept that, not only is Sephiroth feeding on the live stream, he's feeding on the live stream's despair, but we get further clues that how these clones go from being like people to magically having robes on is when they lose hope. Both Broden and spoilers if you haven't completed the Broden side quests, but Broden and main story beat Roche, we see them lose hope and succumb to despair, and as soon as they do, they become robed clones. And as soon as Roche is converted unceremoniously and in a way that I really did not like visually, it looked really silly. But Aerith then confronts Cloud along with Tifa and says, that's not going to happen to you. I'm not going to let that happen to you. It's part of Aerith's plan to make sure Cloud does not fall to despair. And she knows that Tifa is going to be the other half of this. There's a couple of clues we get. 2 in Gungaga in Chapter 9. In Chapter 9, one of the clues we get is that as Black Whispers are attacking the weapon that is transporting Tifa through the life stream, White Whispers, controlled by Aerith, come to fight them off. Right, so this is Aerith actively being aware and helping Tifa. Also, after the almost kiss in Gungaga, when the door opens and Kate Sith and Yuffie are being nosy, Tifa and Aerith lock eyes, and Aerith says something, and the audience is deliberately denied what she says. And I think this is an indication that Aerith is collaborating with Tifa, that her intention is to send a message to Tifa saying that ultimately our goal together is to save Cloud's soul, to help him pass through this degradation. And so after you are exited from the interlude world, and Aerith pushes you into the church floor, by you I mean Cloud, and you're in this white space, and Sephiroth comes out and he says, now you know the true nature of reality. During this dialogue, he says, reunion is at hand. Join me, Cloud. And Cloud rejects this. He says, no, I don't want to. And then Sephiroth says, you need a little push. I give you my blessing. And then Cloud is surrounded by Black Whispers, which eject him back into the main world. When you get to the Forgotten Capital, the White Whispers try and prevent you from going into the Forgotten Capital, inside the building where Aerith is praying. However, as you get to the Wall of Fate there, Sephiroth's blessing comes into play. And that blessing is black whispers that allow Cloud specifically to go witness Aerith's death, because that's the push. What Sephiroth is trying to accomplish with killing Aerith in front of him is to make him join his reunion, make him wake up as a reunion clone. And so, as this is about to happen, as he's about to fall in despair, you see very clear life stream emanating from the Buster Sword. And then a version of events plays in Cloud's mind only that makes him feel he is successful. This saves him in the moment from falling into that despair. And the language is really strong. Like, the cinematic language is really strong. Like, for instance, when Sephiroth is describing, what's happening, like he's saying, your tears are empty, you're nothing, and we see, the blanked out Cloud crying, Cloud falling into despair. All of a sudden, we see green life stream coming from Aerith's hands, and she reaches up, says it's okay, and assuages and comforts Cloud. And then from that moment on, the way Cloud perceives reality is very different from everybody else. And like, for instance, Tifa, she runs up and she sees what really happened. Barrett sees what really happens. Even Red sees what really happens. But in the ending cinematic, when there's the dialogue between Cloud and Livestream Aerith, we get a sense that Aerith touches Red 13 and he senses that it's her. That is not that's not really coded to Red 13 is tuned into the other world also. That is life stream stuff. Red species is much more in tune with the planet. So, and also Aerith and Red have a special relationship. So he senses the remnant of her, the legacy of her. Her presence as a force ghost in the live stream. Now, regarding that, the big rift in the sky that only Cloud sees, I don't think that's an indication that he's seeing a world that has a rift in the sky. I think that rift in the sky is representative of the universe of death. It means that worlds marked for death have that rift. We get a confirmation of that in the Ultimania. There's a description of the two murals in the Edge of Creation scene, the two galaxies, and the yellow one, which has the most imagery that's similar to the yellow rift, is the universe of death. It seems like it'd be the one of life, but it's not. So what I believe Cloud is seeing is he's seeing that universe is that the prime timeline is marked for death, and he's seeing it before the others because it's beneficial, for Aerith's plan that he does. The other thing too, and I will point this out because I'm not going to. And I'll take questions. I do see that there's. I don't even. Okay. Capture. Let me transform it. Okay. So, a few people have tried to tell me this isn't a significant connection, but it's one that I've been like kind of sitting on for a long time, and eventually other people found it. But I don't think that there is any lack of significance in this is Cloud's mind, right? And this is what Cloud in his mind alone sees at the end. And I think thematically what this means is, yes, this is the mark of the end of the world, but also this is a thematic callback to this line. And I think the reason that it's there is to indicate to us what part 3 is about. Part 3 is about Cloud's mind. Everything that was done in chapter 14 is in service of what the developers have always said is the crux of Final Fantasy VII, which is not Aerith's death, although that's an important scene. It is this sequence right here. And so, yes, this scene, the end of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, does sacrifice some of the emotionality of it in service of future parts. It does do that. And I'm also not going to tell you that, you know, just because the devs think that Final Fantasy VII is about this, that's actually what it's about. Once somebody makes art, it sometimes becomes public domain. And what Final Fantasy VII is, you know, may not match what the devs intended. And so there is a responsibility from the developers and the artists to, if they recreate, you know, beloved art, to meet the people they're making it for where they're at. You know, so if I understand being disappointed that when you're supposed to be feeling this dramatic, you know, loss scene, being distracted by confusing imagery and affect that, that's valid. You know, I could totally see feeling that way. Hey, Charlie. Going. I can see that. If you're upset that the water altar scene, after that we seemingly skipped Cloud lowering, Aerith's body into the water. And I think the reason we skipped that is because showing Cloud doing it would be too explicit, right? I think the important takeaway right now is that Cloud doesn't believe she's dead. He doesn't know the true nature of things, but he doesn't think he failed. And that's important in the moment. Because he doesn't have the tools yet to really find out who he is. So that happens in part 3. And all of the stuff that they're doing, all the relationships that have been built in this game, are all with Cloud. I mean, there is relationships between other characters and themselves, but the affinity system, there is no stats to maximize your affection level between Aerith and Barrett. You can do Barrett and Cloud, Aerith and Cloud, Tifa and Cloud, Yuffie and Cloud. We are building a person. We are building Cloud. We are building Cloud through his relationships. And this is all in service of him finding out who he really is. And so I think the live stream scene will be a lot more intense than in the OG. And I think it's going to involve a whole cast of characters, and a whole plethora of moments, that add meaning to his true identity. And I think the person that, Aerith has entrusted with the job of helping him realize, one, who he is, and allow him to survive his inability to save Aerith, is Tifa. Aerith has set that up too. Aerith has, created a series of events and connections with Aerith to help Cloud. The last thing that Aerith says to Cloud in the interlude session, she hands him the white materia, and he grabs it and he says, "This isn't just about me," because Cloud goes, "This was your mother's," and Aerith says, "This isn't about the world, and it's about you." And that's what all of this is. This is about Cloud, So yeah, I think part 3 is going to be heavily loss oriented. It's Joshy Poo. In my opinion, part 3 is going to be hugely about grief. We can't grieve Aerith yet because nobody has, especially Cloud. And I'll say that the OG, I didn't. Maybe I was the wrong age, but dude, I was sliding down the snowboard game 10 minutes after she died, like nothing happened. So, in a lot of ways, this ending was still more sad than the OG variant of events. There's a bunch of lead up to endear us to Aerith, in chapter 13 when she's a child and that stuff is happening with, finds her mom, and that stuff, that was gnarly. That was the most gnarly scene in the game. Emotionally, it was incredible and it was brutal. And so I had more attachment to Aerith as a result of this game. Really, and so when she died, so the way I'm perceiving it is she's dying and Cloud doesn't know it, which is somehow even more sad. It's somehow even more bitter, because you're looking at these other party members who are grieving her and really sad, except for Sid. And then just Cloud being weird as shit. Like it was a little disturbing, but it was more like very melancholy, and so I found that to be a really, really effective scene, but I don't think it will hold a candle to, us seeing Cloud, us identifying with Cloud as he goes through his Shutter Island moment and realizes that Aerith is dead, So I think it's peak drama. I'm super here for it. And as far as Zack's fate, I don't know, man. Whatever. Aerith being like potentially alive in another universe, that seems like a legitimate red herring, like a structurally and like valid red herring, like the proper use of a red herring. But I don't think Zack's survival is a red herring. And the other thing I'll say is that it feels very clear to me that in Remake, in part 1, the resolution scene you get with Aerith, that Aerith is the one that we are talking to in the interlude. She's the one that is talking to Cloud during the ending cinematic. She's even the one in the Sleeping Forest. Yes, that Aerith. Aerith that fought with Cloud at the end of Rebirth. Future Aerith. The Aerith that, is traveling the life stream. Aerith that is the maiden that's traveling the planet. Which is a joke. It's conceptually, it has a lot of those mechanics, but Maiden is still not canon. But it's not bad. There's some bad writing in Maiden. Very poorly translated. But watching Sephiroth nope out at the end was kind of goofy. Which time? When he flies away and they're trying to like get the black materia from him, you mean? When he do, oh yeah, well, him just flying away seems apt. I just got is now live. I didn't lose connection, did I? Am I doing okay with the connections? Or is Twitch just being silly? Good. Thank you guys. Okay. So before I move on, let's see. Touchy subject, but unfortunately I'm bringing it up because nothing should be off the table. But in terms of romance, do you think playing a big part here between the obvious characters, or it's not something to necessarily focus on or care about on part 3 and so on? Shipping is always like a really it has, like you said, it's a touchy subject, but after this game I'm not shying away from it. I feel like they've really established that the relationships in this game are important, and my interpretation of events is that everybody loves each other. Like I do think that there's degrees of things, like I think even Aerith is sort of like, prepping Cloud to maybe end up with Tifa, but this game made me really enjoy the depiction of the relationships and the quote unquote love triangle. It feels less like a triangle now. I I do think that there's feelings all around. Like, I even think there's genuine, like, love. Maybe not romantic love. Definitely not romantic love. But I think there's love between Aerith and Tifa that's fine. And that they're all acting the way that they, like, the best you could expect people that age to act. You know, like, I'm not trying to get on a soapbox about like toxic monogamy, but the way that a lot of the conversation devolves into like sort of possession, you know, like people own each other. I think it's totally normal for there to be like an appropriate amount of love. You know, I think that you know, there were really beautiful moments between Cloud and Tifa that were like character building for both characters, not just one character. And I think there were really beautiful moments between Cloud and Aerith, you know, that you know, I've seen discourse on it, but it's silly discourse to me. Like you know, I think that ultimately you know, the game has lined itself up that like, you know, Cloud and Tifa will probably have, you know, the closest thing to a happy ending together that you can get. And all the characters deserve it. They all deserve a happy ending. But I don't think like Tifa's gonna resent Aerith for having feelings for Cloud, or even resent Cloud for having some kind of feelings for Aerith. Like, I don't think any of that's, you know, really a big deal. And I don't necessarily know that like the true 100% honest Cloud has any, you know, would have like earnest romantic feelings for Aerith. But I also wouldn't be like surprised, nor do I think it's like fair or reasonable to expect like this bizarre ultra monogamous one true partnership kind of like, I don't know, romance dynamic to these characters, especially when they're done so well. And so that's how I answer that. I think it was beautiful. I think all of it was beautiful. Every single gold saucer date was pure gold. There's no bad gold saucer date. Like, I was real nervous about Yuffie. Like, please don't screw up Yuffie. And there's a couple of dialogue choices with Yuffie. They're like, oh no. But then, like, you actually get to the date and it's adorable. It's like, it's not romantic. It's instead like a beautiful connection between two 16-year-olds. You know, like, because Cloud is emotionally 16. You know, he kind of code switches, you know, for legal purposes between ages. But like, emotionally and mentally, he's 16, and they connected on that level. Like, you know, they're doing that stuff. It was really fun. Yeah, it was like brotherly, sisterly kind of stuff. And, you know, Yuffie kisses him on the cheek and it's awkward. But like, then she's like, you know what? I just did it because whatever. I don't know what I'm doing. Do you know what you're doing? No, also, let's play finger guns. Like, it was wonderful. You know, like, Red 13's date was even like very tender. Like, I don't know how to, like, I'm amazed at how good the characterization is in this game. Like, not just like you go on a date and you can remove the romance from it and it's still good. Like, it's so good, you know? There's even like a super bad date where you like open up the door and Vincent and Kate Sith and Sid are there, and you met most of these characters 1 hour ago, and they're taking you to Loveless, and it's like ultra awkward and ridiculous and also fucking awesome. Like, there's just like, there's so many things that like don't miss in the characterization and the characters. And I think people are going to get distance from the, expectation that the ending was going to deliver a certain kind of emotion, and then instead realize that, it didn't separate itself from the core themes of the game. It is in fact consistent. Labib Zahid 95. I think people are going to kind of change their overall feeling on the ending as time goes on. That said, though, the first time you watch it, especially after like a boss gauntlet, and if you like no life to the game, and a lot of people did like 13 and 14 together, which they shouldn't do. Labib Zahid, 5 gift subs. Thank you so much. I do really love all you guys. Oops. What'd you do, Bio? I guess just while we're talking, I will come up with some questions for me, guys, just because before in your defense, you didn't know there was a chapter 14. Well, that's fair too, honestly. Like, because if you don't know what the chapter count is, like, let's say you didn't get a review copy with a review guide, you don't know that, like, you go to the northern area and you get off the boat and it says, this is the point of no return, and you think, oh, this is the end. Okay. While people question, why focus on the blood on Cloud's hand for Tifa? I think there's a real reason, and that's that one, a little bit of shock value, but two, Tifa's always going to look at Cloud first, yeah, then 8 hours go by. I think, if I were really to say like, hey, you could have fixed the story flow of the end game with a simple choice, have a little bit of exploration in Northwood, like just a little bit of exploration, and maybe put like the final boss gauntlet there, and split that chapter up into 2, like kind of go through half the Temple of the Ancients, then do then you have access to Gilgamesh, not before. Like, I think the point of no return should have been after the Temple of the Ancients, so to naturally help you break things up. I'm one of those people that like it took me 3.5 hours to do chapter 13. So, but I do know that like it was grindy. Nobody, like, I was, yeah, like, it was grindy. I'm not saying that it wasn't a little brutal. Do you have any thoughts on the radio mission that seems to have crossed worlds in common? Yeah, I do. Hold on, let me check chat here. Okay. Just checking to see who's in the stream before I say this thing. Yeah, so I think the reason that the calm when is your ending explanation video dropping? When Max finishes the game. So hopefully he's finishing tonight. I get a sense it's probably Thursday, so. But so why do I think the radio transmission in calm is describing things that happened in the quote unquote terrier world? I think it's the same reason. It's the same reason that there is a terrier stamp in Junon with the main party. And it's the same reason I mysteriously got invited to Summer Games Fest. And I think it's because the game was originally intended to be a single altered timeline. And those are legacies of a change more in line with what consensus had hoped for. And I'm probably only going to say that on live stream this one time only, ever. But yeah, I have a fairly high degree of confidence on it. So don't clip, please. Also delisting this part of the stream as soon as we're done. So yeah, like I think there's a course correction a little bit, and I'm not against the course correction. And I talked about this with Night Sky Prince, and as soon as you hear that, like, fan reception had sort of any input on the way the game sort of came to fruition, like the way that Rebirth played out. I know that's like uncomfortable to hear. It's very common in anthology storytelling, like serialized storytelling with any piece of media, where fan reception does dictate choices that they make. And that does make one lose confidence in their ability to tell a story. I would rather it be, the thing that they wanted to do all along. And I for the most part agree. However, I do think that if you've got like the bones of a story, if you've got core concepts and themes that you want to address, the details of how those connect, being receptive to what the fans want in situations like that is more of, can be seen, if you want to interpret it in a charitable light, it'd be seen as an effort for the creators to accept that they share ownership of their own creation with the fans, and so it's towing that line that's really hard, because if you go too far, there's an imbalance, because ultimately the devs should have more say in what happens in a story than than consumers or fans or artistic recipients. They should have more. That's not to say that recipients should have none, So I think what they ultimately did, and I know this it doesn't sound like you know, this was any more of a, like, this is a compromise, what we're looking at. But I think with enough distance, we'll probably feel like this kind of is a compromise, because it almost like, it's almost all of the theories people had are true in some way. You know, there's live stream stuff, there's timeline stuff. It's a pretty faithful retelling, but there's also alterations. Like, you know, we're still probably going to get versions of the moments we want, you know. And I think they just forgot to remove the radio broadcast, or didn't change it because they didn't think people would you know, connect the dots. I would rather they tell the story they want to make, but if you can slightly course correct and still make it work within the framework that you originally intended, isn't that bad. Like, I sat here kind of hoping they don't let people's very vocal opinions about the romance on either side dictate what they want to do in that aspect. I don't think they'll do that. Byroxis, the broadcast. So there's a broadcast that basically describes the events of the prologue of the game, starring Zack. It matches those events, and it's playing in the inn at Calm, like when you first go downstairs. Joshi Poo says, or there were tornadoes in all realities, which maybe, you know, I mean, there were tornadoes for sure in the Singularity, but this is kind of our first look at seeing the tornadoes in, like, you know. The addition of multiple timelines seems pointless. It doesn't add anything to the main story. Sephiroth time traveling would have been sufficient. Than multiple timelines. So, if it were a true, like, okay, I think the interlude served a purpose. And in the interlude, we're seeing different sides of a story, right? If the nature of the multiverse were that every single stamp bag represented a reality with its own set of characters, I would agree that it's pointless. I think that what we are seeing is singular souls that have varied experiences within these worlds. So, to me, the interlude was far from pointless, because even though it was in a continuity that didn't match the events of the OG or the rest of the game, it gave us some of the best looks at some of the characters and the relationships. Particularly, the relationship between Cloud and Aerith was really strong in those scenes. And why that adds value is because the central crux of Final Fantasy VII is Cloud's identity. You know, and if all of those character moments between Aerith and Cloud happened in the main continuity, there is some messiness that can happen, because, you know, there is these other characters that, you know, need to take up space in that world too. Like, you know, it offered a space for us to gain, like, more context on the relationships that Cloud has with characters that will then ultimately serve that sequence, that Cloud learning who he really is. Like, how they deliver on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and how they deliver on the re-trilogy, is ultimately going to be still how they deliver on the crux of the OG. And they've got to do it better. You know, they've got to, and that's really hard, you know? It's common storytelling for radio signals to cross realities. Yeah, that's another possibility. You know, that could be it. I was hoping that you know, somebody would mention it down there. Oh, that's weird. I can look. That's crazy. What's going on in Midgar? Seems like the only thing anybody would be talking about. You know, there's a bunch of extra tornadoes and stuff. You know, or is that news real? You know, like, so I actually am leaning towards it being a legacy thing. Bioroxis, I more so saw it as diverging timelines. Do you mean the sequence in the beginning of chapter 14, where each of the dogs represent, like, so yeah, that's a common, like, kind of takeaway, is that each of the dogs is a, you know, new timeline. But what we learn is that worlds are created when destiny is broken. And so, like, is the assumption there that each of those is a new way that destiny was broken, you know? And also there's this idea that, is that a singular Zack passing through all of those different worlds? Or is it something a little bit more simple, you know? Because we do know that Zack passes in the space between worlds, because there's a chapter description of it, like it in the interlude story section, it describes that. However, I think that's referring to the time when we see Sephiroth literally push Zack into another world, like into black space. And then again, when we see him go through white space, like, we're seeing him pass through worlds in two instances. So for us to just assume that the other times that we see a dog change, it's because he's had a similar experience to something that we've only seen twice, and at the end of this sequence, it seems like it seems like either a failure of conveyance, or that's not what's being conveyed. And I think that's what's not being conveyed is the more likely explanation. Also, like, you know, we see Zack in the Terrier tunnel, leave the tunnel, go towards Biggs, and we see a white rainbow light come the other way. And then we're assuming that's Aerith transporting Cloud's mind, you know, from the events of at the end of chapter 13 as they're falling down, you know, into the forest. Like, and then they're in the Shih Tzu timeline, or they're in the Shih Tzu continuity. I think those dogs are more reflective of the individuals who we're experiencing things through. You know, I think the pug is Biggs. Like, that's what that means. Like, it doesn't mean Zack's decision to go, you know, see Biggs, because actually after he makes the decision, the next scene we see is Zack in the Shinra HQ, and there's still a terrier there, right? The Shih Tzu, which is the one that's associated with Cloud, you know, that, I don't know if it's a Shih Tzu, but that's what ChatGPT told me and Ryan. So I'm having trouble letting go of that. It's also very funny to say, so I'm just going to keep saying it. So in the Shih Tzu continuity, you know, like, that seems to really be centered around Cloud's, you know, Cloud's point of view. And, or, you know, it could be as simple as something like a way that Aerith conceptualizes Cloud's relationship with her. Because the pug, I mean, like, it's, or like the bulldog, you know, whatever it is, like, they're known as like a stubborn, like, kind of bullheaded dog. And Biggs's relationship with Aerith is one where he, like, essentially, like, knocks out this abuser. Like, Biggs is a badass in Traces of Two Paths in the Aerith portion. Like, it's surreal. Like, he's a staunch, kind of stubborn person. He's stubborn in this too, but like that's characteristically kind of, it matches, you know, him. So I don't think these are as simple as like, I don't think these are mechanical choices. I think these are dreamlike, esoteric, relational symbols of what's happening in this world that he's in. You know, this world that Aerith's dream world, which is still a distinct continuity. It's still a timeline, you know, but I don't think it has these hard mechanical rules like we would expect from a Western timeline story. Instead, this matches the kind of, you know, sort of feeling first, mechanic second timeline structure that we would see in, say, Final Fantasy 13-2, which, by the way, you may know was directed by Hamaguchi and written by Nojima, and lived in a, and was, you know, built in a world created by Nomura and produced by Kitase. Those people do multiverse stories pretty much exactly like this. So it's actually more, I think it's more far-fetched to assume that it's not this, you know, personally. What do you guys think? What do I think of Zack always ending up in front of a firing squad, both fighting in one or running in the other? You know, a lot of that's just like, yeah, poetry. You know, like, it's, I don't think it has anything to do with like, oh, that's always going to be his fate. I think he makes a very clear stand. Like, I think he has that moment before he says, "See ya never," and then jumps off a cliff, where he's like, "I'm tired of it. I'm not going to do this anymore," you know? But that different world than Zack's Terror. So in the Terror timeline, which is the same as the prologue, there's only one Cloud, one Zack is carrying. In that world, Cloud never made it back to Midgar to meet up with Avalanche, Silent First Class. Yeah, I'm telling you, I don't think that's the way that world works. I don't think the Shih Tzu is a different world than the one that Zack carried Cloud into. Did you discuss the NSP about the black materia and the white materia factor in the ending? I didn't finish listening to the VOD. So my take is that the white materia, so this is another thing in the Japanese version that was a little more clear. So when Aerith looks at the clear materia in Costa del Sol, and is talking about memory, there's an implication in the localization that the whispers themselves like emptied out the white materia. But the takeaway in Japan is that they removed the Aerith's memories of what happened to it, which, to me, I think the reason that the white materia is empty is because Aerith cast Holy in Remake on the portal, and or she cast the unlock spell, right? So something that we learn about the fundamental nature of the black materia is that the black materia ball that you get from the Temple of the Ancients is just a key to the real version, which is in between worlds. I would not be surprised if the white materia works the same way. You know, so she may have used the white materia key to unlock and help find the copy of the white materia that's within the space between worlds, in the same place that the black materia would be held. Hi Charlie, come here. Here, bud. I took it as knowledge in the white materia was her omnipotent knowledge, and fate tried to steal it so the party couldn't defeat fate and thus allow Sephiroth to destroy the world. I mean, that's possible too, you know? But I don't think that, see, there's just not a lot of indication that there are literal copies of it. Like, I think that there is a singular soul, you know, of these people, of the materia, stuff like that. Like, I think maybe there's some, you know, discrepancies with things like the Buster Sword and stuff like that, but I don't think that they're thinking of it with that level of structural coherence. I think this is you know, much more esoteric. I'm going to be honest with you. We need a DLC for Rebirth. I hope they give us that because they have a lot to go through. Yeah, I would like a DLC. I mean, it wouldn't be a bad idea for us to get like our hands on, you know, maybe a character that joins later, like Sid or Vincent, you know? How many Clouds are there in Zack's timeline? Because they were looking for a guy with the Buster Sword before Zack and Cloud even reached Midgar. Yeah. I don't think there's multiple Clouds in that timeline. I don't think that timeline, that world, that dream, that homecoming, I don't think it adheres very strictly to like cause and effect language. I think it's instead like a dream state, very reflective of its inhabitants. Like, again, they made a very specific point to like have Biggs but not Jesse, and Kyrie but not Leslie, or Marl, you know, or any of the characters that we know, like from Remake. None of them are in there, and I'll tell you why. It's because they didn't know Aerith. That is Aerith's world, you know. Right, I wasn't saying there were two Clouds in the timeline. I don't think so. You might have already covered this, but are you also of the opinion that we're still on track from Remake? That this is Sephiroth and Aerith coming back through the live stream post AC playing 4D chess over the course of OG? Cloud 027? Yes, I am. Is that what you're saying? Because I was referring to the prologue. Yeah, and I think the prologue is in that world, you know? Interlude, Aerith's world, maybe? Yeah. So do I think this is a sequel? I don't think that's a fair description. I don't like that word for it. But I do know that most of the time when people are saying, this is a sequel, what they're saying is that the deviations in the Remake trilogy are predicated on events that happened past AC. And that statement I agree with. I don't think that sequel is the right term for it. Charles, you're... Charlie. Okay. Fine. Hey, bud. Let me find out what music I'm playing because it's autoplay. And it's Soul of the Wind. I hope I have permission to play this. I like it. Come say hi to chat. Or be there, that's fine. So it's not a sequel in a common sense, and it's like an adaptation with future elements. I think is fine. So when people are like, "This is a sequel," I know what they mean, and I agree. You know, do I think it's a sequel? No, and I don't think that if you were to like ask a Japanese developer, they're gonna know what you mean. Like they don't like they'll be like more than a remake. That makes but like we're trying to pigeonhole titles in a very Anglo-centric way, and then we're asking devs like, "Hey, is this also a sequel?" They're not gonna know how to answer that question because like what we're saying is that hey, is part of the link to Advent Children, you know, the fact that these party members have future knowledge, or that you know this is stuff that Sephiroth learned in the future. Like, you know, like nobody's gonna get away with asking a developer that question because they're not gonna answer it. And if you, I know I'm a fucking legend. Has brought up interview answers, but like really, I implore you to look super clearly at translations of what they're saying, and they're ultra careful with their language or the relationship between Advent Children and the Re-Trilogy. Like, will it equal to? Yes. Will it link up? Yes. You know, but they have not made concrete statements regarding the fates of characters. That would not be in their best interest, because it would be one developer talking over another. Hamaguchi has said, you know, that Aerith's fate, you know, is left in a questionable state. There's developer statements saying that, you know, the ending sort of leans into cliffhanger territory, right? And I feel confident that Aerith is actually dead, you know, and that this is her live stream ghost stuff. But Zack's fate, totally up in the air, you know? And I don't think they're going to eliminate those options in part 2 of 3. Like, that's suicide from a marketing perspective, you know? So regardless of what ends up happening, you know, and I do think that it'll feel largely the same, you know, like the core of Final Fantasy VII Re-Trilogy will feel like it touches on mostly the same elements and plot beats. Will there be some new things? Obviously. Will there be some alterations? Yes. Yes. There will be alteration. Because there already have been, you know. And some of them are things that really help with game design and plausibility, like the Temple of the Ancients is in the northern continent now, instead of on the southern continent. Because, like, how did Aerith make her way to the northern continent, you know, in the OG? With, like, when it's so hard to get a boat. Like, we basically had to get a crashed plane to get a boat, you know? So I don't view any of the alterations thus far as detaching from the original 10. I don't think it ever will. I don't either. I do think that there might be new payoffs, new lessons. And I think that we are getting into territory that will be divisive for some, which is a lot of people have very strong opinions on what makes Cloud Cloud. And since the culmination of the next part will be Cloud's identity, the cast members of that scene are really going to make or break it for some people. You know, some people really like it has to only be Tifa. And I get that. Like I'm not like if people left the project, you know, or you know, detached from the scene because Aerith shows up in the live stream sequence. You know, I'm not gonna fault them for that. But I do think that that's what's being built here is a new grand theory of Final Fantasy VII that includes the compilation and the big payoff is going to be a version of Cloud's identity that isn't just centered on one other person anymore. You know? Funny how we instantly knew how Rebirth would start, but I don't think any idea how part 3 will start. That's a good point. Don't. Yeah. Now, the live stream scene will have to be different. And how do you think they will handle the lack of synergy options between Aerith and Sid and Vincent, but more importantly, their bonds? I think those are going to be left underdeveloped. I think it's too late, and that's sad. You know, but like I will say it felt like they were maybe trying to build something involving Sid and Defalna, you know. And maybe we'll see Sid, like, you know, tear up or something, seeing Defalna in the Icicle Village videos. Another question. Did you discuss with NSP about whether the creepy, sad smile Aerith has Forgotten Capital is really her or Genova? It's her. I don't think it's creepy. I think it's just representative of the fact that she's not there. It's creepy that it's happening, but I don't think we are seeing Aerith. But there was Sephiroth music during it. Well, I think that's because Sephiroth killed her. There wasn't Genova music during it. There was Sephiroth music during it. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, again, when Aerith is having that conversation with Cloud during the ending cinematic, Aerith is clearly Aerith. Like, she sort of comes up to Red and Tifa and recognizes their loss. And she touches Red and Red senses her. I don't think that's Genova coded at all. I was not getting Genova coding at all from the scene. It's creepy because it's creepy Cloud is in this state. And Sephiroth music is definitely emblematic and thematic of Cloud's deteriorated mental health. You know? So I'm not going to read into that. In my opinion, Sephiroth is trying to double break Cloud's mind by hiding reality from him. Your two best friends are dead. Now give me the black materia. Okay. That's a thought. That's a thought. I am not getting those vibes from the way that Aerith reaches up in the ending. You know, we see Sephiroth taunting Cloud, and Cloud is giving his like tear-felt speech from the OG, like, you know, she can never cry again, that whole thing. And we don't hear that. Instead, we see Aerith reach up, you know. We see that I don't think that I just think that it's an indication, like it's visual language saying that something is wrong. Not that Sephiroth is controlling her. There's usually a lot of imagery representative of Sephiroth when Sephiroth is doing anything. Like purple, you know, purple life stream. But it is green life stream coming up in all of this, you know. There was no headache in... Yeah, there was no headache, actually. I see what you mean, yeah. It's only creepy because it's so wrong, yeah. Reality's Cloud sitting there talking to and smiling to Aerith. I don't think that's Aerith's dead body, but I think it's inappropriate for him to be so positive in that moment. I'm not saying it's Seph all the time. Could just be Cloud's mind, but I don't think Aerith really reached out since it showed Cloud holding her hand there. You know, you could be right. It feels very genuine and very tender, and it does not at all feel disingenuous. Like the language. And uncorrupted livestream is something that Sephiroth cannot wield. Like, and that is green that comes from her. You know, like that he can't interact with it. The only way that he can really consume it is by turning it purple. You know, like, and we see that happening, you know. A pleasure to have almost everyone back together again. Yeah, like a homecoming. Well played, guys, both of you. Loud Monk, I have a feeling we might see Cloud's Aerith death speech, plus him lowering her into the water when Tifa helps Cloud in the live stream in part 3. Yes, I did, Loud Monk, I did suggest that a little earlier. I think that is 100% the purpose they're not in this game. Is because they will instead be part of the transformation. And I think, you know, Aerith has set up Tifa to help deliver that message, you know, with all of their secret colluding, you know, and with the white whispers saving Aerith in the live stream from the black whispers when she was riding with the weapon. You think we'll get the Zack thing in the live stream with Tifa too? Maybe even his mom and so on? That's the thing I'm most concerned about. You mean Tifa's still the one that will help guide Cloud to the realization that Aerith died. You said Aerith in the live stream weapon. No, Tifa was in the live stream weapon, but Aerith helped her, right? So yeah, I may have said mixed them up, but so yeah, Tifa's in the live stream weapon, or she's in the weapon on the live stream. Aerith helps save her from the Sephiroth whispers with the Aerith whispers. You're with me now. I probably misspoke. Will the truth of Zack and Aerith be a bit too much for a single scene? I do not necessarily know if so. I do think the whole live stream sequence will feel really long. I do think they're probably it's all gonna happen there. But as far as Zack goes, I think the important takeaway in the live stream sequence for Cloud is that he's not Zack. That still will happen. I feel fairly confident on that subject. However, like, I don't think Zack's gonna show up physically in the in the live stream. Because I don't think he's there. I don't think Zach will be dead. Legitimately. In all universes. By the time we get to the live stream sequence. And I also talked about this with NSP, but I do think that his inclusion in the live stream struggles a bit as it stands. I do think that the live stream sequence will include a lot more characters than just Tifa, but I think the appearances will be earned because within the confines of 7R, relationships have been established with these other characters that may show up in, even as like a memory or a flashback, like a moment he had with Barrett, or Yuffie or Red, like all those moments might show up in the live stream sequence. The problem with Zach's scenes showing up is that the relationship between Zach and Cloud has not been plausibly established in the re-trilogy. Like, the only idea we have that they're friends comes from Crisis Core, and that is so poorly edited that I don't think that the relationship depicted between Cloud and Zach's bromance is enough to carry his inclusion in the live stream sequence. So I think if he's going to make his way in the live stream sequence within the confines of 7R, they need to reestablish and re-show what their friendship was. Because as it stands, they went on 2 missions together, 2.5, because he was technically in June on 2. And then we're in a vat together, and then, Cloud cared for him as an invalid, and he stole some of his memories. That's not quite it's not super friendly. It's not powerful, and my biggest gripe is still with the end sequences. I still think that the Dreams and Honor shit where they were synchronizing swords, they didn't earn that. They didn't earn that being, good. So I think Zach and Cloud need to be very reinforced before he shows up in the live stream. I also think that if you look at how the game describes his final act, is he's crossed in the barrier between worlds. So he's in a different world now, I don't know what world that is. He talks about them reuniting again. That's the last thing that he says. So, which sort of does indicate that maybe he's in a different world than everybody else. But, it was more of a door open for the fact that Zach's story isn't done yet. He could be in the main one now, although I feel like people will be upset because that's a little disingenuous. Because the statement is literally, what's to say they can't be reunited again, or they can't, be brought back together, talking about the splitting of worlds. That's a thing that he shouldn't have said if the idea behind it is that he's actually just in the same world now. There's only one world. We're all in it, But then again, there was a scene at the end of intermission that does not, logically or plausibly belong anywhere in any of the sequences we saw. The only place in my mind that could actually fit in the chronology of Zach's experience is after he falls through the floor in his Sephiroth Reborn fight, and before he's just sitting in the church. Like, it's the only time that really, like, totally you can't for sure say that, you know, he didn't originally go in that church looking for Aerith and then open the door and there's a bunch of people in there and then he just sat in there until there wasn't people. You can't say that didn't happen, but it still doesn't feel like the intermission ending actually had a spot in the story. And, you know, it's either because there's three possibilities. It's where I said it was and poorly explained. It hasn't been explained yet. Or they're making stuff up as they go and it's a continuity problem. And if I were to guess, I would say it was the third thing. It just kind of happened. It's actually not super uncommon with like Nomura secret endings. Is it like the secret endings point us in a direction, but they never actually belong specifically in the next work. You know, like there's a little bit of a disconnect. Heather Lacey in chat, thank you. Also, did Sid fix the tiny Bronco's wings? Dude, I don't know. That's not one I'm going to think about a long time. It's like it is... My theory is that we gained an item transmuter level during the final battle and crafted the wings from there. Sure. I'll take it. I'll take it. I feel like if you were to ask Hamaguchi or Toriyama, they would like search in their brain for answers and come up with something like that. Like, maybe it was this. If you could design Vincent's combat, how would you do it? Well, that's a good question. I really want him to have... close range, a mixture of close combat and gunplay. In the close combat, I don't want to be attached to a weapon ability, right? So I don't want like how Barrett does his melee attacks. You know, I want it to be like actually something more akin to Kate Sith. I'm not sure if you guys spent a lot of time playing as Kate Sith. I'm going to go out on a limb and say no, probably less than me, but I think like the Kate Sith meta is on its way, and pretty soon there's going to be guides saying that he's actually super OP. Takes a while to figure out how to play as him. The best way to learn is in his brutal independent challenge. The worst place to learn was in Nibelheim, chapter 11. But, you know, he's pretty good. Moogle magic is crazy. The luck stat stuff is gnarly. Like, you can adjust the dice roll manually. His ability to raise stagger percentage as just a robotic cat. Like, before you even get on the Moogle, your triangle attack with just the tiny little robot cat builds stagger like focus strike. It's sort of busted, you know? But Kate Sith, if you are close to the opponent, will use melee attacks. If you're not, he starts doing like magic megaphone attacks and notes come out, you know. So he's pretty good. So I do think that Vincent having like that style of blend would be good. But I also would really like a lot of his weapon abilities to be centered around transformations, even if like temporary transformations. You know, like, you know, if you use this weapon ability, you'll temporarily transfer into like a small galleon beast. Like you'll have a small galleon beast arm come out. Like, yeah, like Joshipu, like, exactly like Clive's iconic abilities, but like in a game that's hard, you know? And then do you expect did I expect Genesis to show up in the game, this game, by the way? A little bit. I thought he'd be like a VR challenge. I still think he'll probably be a VR challenge in the DLC that officially is not coming out yet, but is for sure coming out. I mean, there are Genesis references. You know, there's the Loveless, the G edition. Like, that G ain't for gassed, you know? Genesis seems such a meme at this point. I honestly wonder if they'll even touch him aside from references. Nah, man, he belongs in DLC. He's gonna be the Vice. Yeah, I kind of think a Vincent DLC with Genesis as the VR boss, because you know we're introduced to Genesis technically in the Vincent game in Dirge of Cerberus, and he's called G, which we didn't know stood for Genesis when it came out. We thought it stood for Gact, because that's the dude that plays him. That's the dude that shows up. That's G, you know? So. Genesis does what Sephi don't? Yeah. Sorry to repeat, Aerith, but Aerith's goodbye at the end of the last cinematic seemed pretty definitive in the sense of saying goodbye to Cloud, the party, and maybe even the players. But we are definitely going to see her in part 3. You think it'll be in a much lesser compatibility to the Zack scenes we had in Rebirth? Yeah, I think that she's going to be like operating, you know, from like a detached plane, you know. I mean, like, I think that at some point during like some hopeless battle where it feels like all is lost, you know, we'll just see the words "great gospel," you know, come across the screen, and like from the live stream, that's where we see that limit break, you know. It wouldn't surprise me if Zack and Aerith team up in some way at some point. I think eventually, yeah. You know, I think there's going to be a journey to get there, a subversive one. Like, what was her ultimate weapon in the game? In this game, it was Gambatine, which is a Norse. Sometimes it's a sword, sometimes it's a sorcerer's staff in Norse mythology. But it was not Princess Guard, which was her final weapon in POG. Although it does sort of look like Princess Guard. But I don't think that there's an indication that that's actually what it is. I hope to shit the joke weapons are in part 3. Oh, okay, that's a legitimate grievance I have with the game. I didn't think there were enough weapons, and the weapons weren't cool. The coolest looking weapon, again, for Cloud, is the one that when your weapon level is maxed out is the weakest. Like, in Remake, Twin Stinger looks super cool. The ability counter stance is really good, but like once all of the weapon levels are maxed, it is the least useful weapon, like objectively. And in this game, Slipstream Saber looks really cool. It's the last weapon you get. It even gives you the counter stance ability, but once again is the weakest when you fully level it up, when you get to weapon level 10. And the two weapons that have the highest physical attack, which is where Cloud sort of like excels, are ugly as sin. The Sleek Saber looks kind of cool, but like it kind of looks bland. But the Igneous Saber, which is his strongest physical weapon, it's the hard edge of this game, is just like, it's immersion breakingly bad looking. You know, Rune Blade looks sick, but you're not doing Mage Cloud right now. I think there are really good Mage Cloud runs. So something about the platinum, by the way, is that it's super hard, screwed up how hard the platinum is. But what so far most people have told me about the platinum is that the hardest platinum achievement is one of the VR battles. It's not Rulers of the Outer Worlds, which is hard. Really hard. It's like harder than anything we played in Remake. It's actually the solo, or the Bonds of Friendship, which is the Zack one. The Zack one is really hard for people. People that I know that were kind of on the same journey of being like platinuming it before the game came out, you know? So we had no guides to look at. I know a couple of them that are some of the best natural gamers in the world. Like really, like they can very easily get into like world record breaking times with with combat strats, and really deep in the some of them fought the Bonds of Friendship for 8 to 14 hours. Like, so a lot of people really struggled with that. I beat it on my second try with a mage-based Cloud. And I have tried to repeat those results, and I died. So I was like, I don't know how I did it. I'm just real lucky. But I felt gaslit when people were like, nah, those suck, But everybody's like, the equivalent fight, which is like the one with Sephiroth. Sephiroth is so much more powerful and useful than Zack, which is, as it should be. So, what's your opinion on the pacing and the difficulty? What things do you think need to be tweaked for part 3? I think the final dungeon needs to I think they need to restructure the way they do the final area and final dungeon. Like the pacing issues really, I think, hit most people hardest there. I got real lucky. I had time, and I recognize that that's kind of a privilege. I had this time, I wasn't trying to rush to the end of the game so that it wouldn't be spoiled for me, right? So I took my time and knew that when I was at the point of no return that I should do that in the morning in a fresh playthrough. So I didn't feel like it was as grindy as I think somebody that might just be like, okay, the end of the night, let's just do this. Let's finish the game, and then you go to the point of no return 8 hours later. That's kind of rough. pacing wise. So they could have split chapter 13 into two, I think very easily. And, you know, split up the lore between the two of those. And then I think, you know, made it really clear, made the last thing that you do, the last boss gambit be the actual, you know, point of no return. So like the way I see it is you go to the northern crater, you know, you've gone down, you do the final dungeon. There's a save point right before the final boss with, you know, save for Sephiroth and all that stuff. That's your point of no return. And that's when it warns you, this is now the time to do all the stuff, you know? I think that's a better way overall. As far as the pacing in the other parts, like, you know, I lacked the social power to convince the entire world that if you want to, say, like, maximize your enjoyment of the game, you don't have to be a completionist the first game through. Like, you can do all the side quests later. And I still think the best way to play, half the side quests. Do the side quests that get you the initial date that you want, so that you just feel good about that experience, right? And then do the rest of the side quests in post-game. You know, I think that's a way to make it feel like, you know, you're blending the story with post-game stuff, you know. And some of the, you know, also some of the side quests need to be redone in order to get manuscripts. You know, I just want that damn Buster Sword that Gilgamesh had. I thought we were gonna get an ultimate Buster Sword from Gilgamesh, and instead we got him as a summon. That was a big L. Joshy Poo said, someone on Final Fantasy Feed podcast said they think Bizarro should have been between Cloud clashing Seph's sword and the actual death. I agree. I don't, because I think that scene needed to play out the exact way that it did. Because then I don't think they could successfully convey the thing they actually conveyed, and not the thing that every single person on Final Fan TV's podcast misconstrued the ending as. So, not misconstrued, but the way they construed the ending, you know, was that it happened in two timelines simultaneously. And I don't think that's what happened. So if I'm right, it wouldn't have worked to just break up the pacing of that. Like, because that scene intact is really important, you know. Could have you fought Genova and Sephiroth Reborn and stuff like that before the death? Maybe. I don't know. What do you think the biggest misconception people seem to have about the ending or the game in general? In my opinion, it's that it's the thing I just said, is that somehow Cloud is living in two worlds at the end, and that there's one reality where he saved Earth and one where he doesn't. On a first playthrough, what level affection do you need for intimate dates, full circle, or max affinity? I have no max affinity in the stats menu, and you can never learn what the what your affinity is in until you get to New Game Plus, because that play log portion doesn't become available until end game. So what you sort of have to do is just eyeball it. Like, you just have to keep a mental tab. Have I done all of the side quests that have the picture of the person that I'm trying to romance? You know, like, I look through all the side quest board. Is there any, like, let's say you want Red 13. Are there any red 13 faces on side quests that aren't completed, you know? And if there's no face on a side quest, go start the quest, and then the face shows up on that quest immediately. Does having the full smiley get you the intimate version, though? Yeah, full smiley, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and you can also just hit the L1 to display the smiley level. You need about high 70s to get intimate, yeah. Weird that full smiley and max affinity are two things. Right. So max affinity is just a thing that shows up in that, like, little, the checkboxes in endgame. Full smiley, that's something that you can assume is in, you can do by hitting L1. What's your opinion on optional scenes and what's canon? Do you think all dates are canon? All dates are canon. Like, I think they're all canonically valid and relevant. They all do important things in character building. I'm not actually saying that, you know, Cloud did all of them. I don't think that matters, you know. Speaking of New Game Plus settings, can't believe they have the auto pickup accessibility setting unlockable. Yeah, the auto pickup thing, I don't know if they could have locked that behind New Game Plus. And weirdly, like, by the time you get to New Game Plus, like, you so quickly don't need it. Like, it's crazy how quick into New Game Plus you just don't need anything ever again. Like, yeah. So I still found myself pressing triangle out of habit. I still do, yeah. I gotta say, I'm loving the difficulty in Rebirth. Was the only thing I wanted in part 2, and they delivered tenfold. Yeah, it's difficult. Can't use items on hard, so who cares? Yeah, that's part of it, but you can use materials to craft, like, the accessories, like the Genji equipment and stuff like that. Also, you can craft these cushions, which you can use in hard mode. So, but like ours is saying, you can buy those too. So, all right, like, we talked forever. I didn't play any of the game at all, but I'm going to take a quick break and grab a little tiny bite, but I'll be back. Don't leave. Yeah.
Let's dance, asshole.
Hi guys, thank you for your patience. Let's see, what did I miss? What did I miss? Just give me more monsters in the world like Marlboro, Jabberwock. You know, I mean I loved the the challenges, I do find myself like sad that I'm done with. Also, I really want more Queen's Blood, like a lot more. I love the system of Queen's Blood so much. I have a critique. Queen's Blood is too easy. The most challenging things were weird little puzzles, like the puzzle rounds, and like I think on stream even I did the final challenge of the which was the 5-round one where you get the Bahamut card, and even that was like weirdly easy, you know. Like first time I played against Shadowblood Queen, like I'd kind of tuned my, I think you get to this point, and I don't think this is just like I'm super OP. I'm not saying that. I do think for the most part everybody will get brought to this certain skill level, and then you just trounce the last few, and then you're like, oh, I can't wait to play more, and then there's no more. So I hope that in the DLC they add a ton and they make it a real game that you can play, tabletop game, preferably that actually corrupts your soul and injects you with Genova influence. Also, let's talk about that, right? Even Queen's Blood had a sweet, like, weird Genova-based survival horror plot. Like, okay, that's yet another reason why I was so bummed out with Nebel Mansion. Like, the manor is just a letdown, because even the Queen's Blood, like, quest line was, like, adequately dark, you know, to let us know that they can in fact do that, you know. So yeah, like an extra tier above. Exactly. I consistently win all 3 lanes. Yeah, I mean, like, you just get to that point, right? Like, you start to struggle right in the, maybe in the beginning as you're learning. Once you learn it, then it like, you just, then it's like it becomes, you know, Final Fantasy 16, where you can do it accidentally in autopilot. Counterpoint. Hey, how's it doing? For the 40 of you that left while I was on break, I don't blame you. But just know that I can say all the super dope stuff now. When I read the description of Aerith's ceremonial staff, I wondered whether it was originally created for the Shadowblood Queen. That's a great question.
Dance, asshole.
Joshy Poo with the Prime sub. So, okay. I know that a lot of you just beat the game. And I know that some of you have now had a little bit of time. And I know that some of you are in a spot where you're still processing the ending. But what do you guys think? Oh, Stinky Duck. Oh my gosh. 25 gift subs? Bro. Whoa. Dude. Thank you. That's... Oh man. No, but you bro keeping folks here happy? Dude. So many people there with ad-free viewing now. If you are enjoying this stream ad-free, thanks to Stinky Duck, please let him know. That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Item descriptions. Okay, well, that's all right. Let's go there. So Buster Sword, right off the bat, a large broadsword that has inherited the hopes of those who fight. Okay. Yeah, man, you know. The sleek saber, a Republic era blade, polished into a refined shape and sheen. Rune blade, which looks super cool. A great sword inscribed with characters from a mystical ancient threat. Rune blade was in the OG, and the runes on this are mostly the sort of consistent Elder Plutarch runes that we've seen in, you know, summons and stuff, but some are not. Some are just totally nonsensical runes, which is maybe even more interesting. But I like the flourish on this. This one might be aesthetically like top 2. I think this one though is my favorite, and I think Prime Mode, my favorite new ability. I love Prime Mode. Increasing the Berserk potency, you know, and then just, yeah, the combo itself is super powerful. This looks the most like the Force Stealer, but it isn't quite the Force Stealer. Like, I was really surprised there was no Force Stealer, and earnestly a little bit disappointed. But this is my favorite looking weapon. The Crystal Sword looks cool too, especially because for most people during their first playthrough of the game, this is the one that Cloud goes on his first murder spree with, which is great. So Umbral Blade, a mystifying sword forged from a gem that emits an eerie glow. So it's forged from this, you know, wanna hide? I have 3 cats. You guys usually see Charlie. Sometimes you'll see Nebula. You don't see Ghost Hawk, baby girl. She's in here a lot, but she's shy. Doesn't usually yell at me while I play. We call her baby girl. Okay. Crystal Sword, a finely honed greatsword hewn from an enormous gemstone. So this one's forged from a gem. This one's forged from a gem. Kind of seems like, you know, a theme. A curved greatsword forged from volcanic magma. I don't like this sword at all, but it is like it's like kind of the sword I ended up using a lot of the game. I hate the way that it does. So. Some people really like it though. And it's certainly intricate. It just looks like ugly. You know what I mean? Oh, Costa del Sol's trying to drown me out. Thank you. Is that better? Okay, perfect. And then this is the Slipstream sword. This is, I think, my favorite looking sword. It just looks got like kind of cool, edgy gun blade, like It looks like kind of made a live stream, but also like a gun blade slash motorcycle handle. I don't know. I like it. It's kind of dumb, but I like it. Great sword whose power has been greatly enhanced by the Mako coursing through its blade. So it's like a Mako sword. The live stream sword from such. It's his Night Sky Princess stream. Gatling gun, custom order commissioned specifically to take down Shinra. Barrett's longtime right-hand man. A retro firearm repurposed from a Republic era weapon. So again, more Republic era stuff. And you can see like there's this aesthetic style. It's of the Republic era stuff. And where you see the most of this is like in Junon, which in Upper Junon, which makes sense, you know, because it's the Republic of Junon. But I like the visual consistency. Like this is the era, you know, and this is what that looks like. This looks like it could come right off of one of like the trains in Upper Junon. Barrage blaster, heavy artillery firearm, equipped with multiple barrels for maximum lethality. Vulcan cannon. Gun arm that fires faster as 3 barrels begin to rotate. Okay. Point blank. Ostentatious firearm. Crafted by a reclusive weaponsmith. This is one of the few weapons that you get from a side quest. I had hoped there would be more weapon-based side quests. I would hope there would be more weapons. I own like 40 weapons per character in part 3. And I know that I'm fooling myself. But it's cool. The Fafnir. Calamitous bazooka. Very cool looking. Wicked firearm imbued with the Rancor, the tribe of fallen warriors. It's really nice of the Gi tribe to make a gun arm. You know? To just know that there would be, you know, one of 2 known humans that this would work for. Or maybe like it is just a real common problem. People's arms fall off very regularly. How do you think they'll prevent Ultima Weapon from being better than everything? It's a good question. Making it have no materia growth is a good idea. Battle cry. Destiny-defying firearm imbued with the power of the planet. That is quite an item description. That is very dramatic. Leather gloves. Well-worn leather gloves that have seen their fair share of fights. Sylph gloves. Gloves that slice through the air to deliver sharp strikes. Kaiser knuckles. Gloves fitted with sharp metal spikes to pack an extra punch. Dragon claws. Gorgeous gloves with a dragon scale design. Tiger fangs. There are a lot of reused weapons, yeah. Savage gloves inspired by the sharp teeth of a beast of prey. Crystal gloves. Gloves studded with gemstones that house magic power. The yarn gripe. Gloves embedded with strength-enhancing energy cores. This looks reminiscent of a very specific kind of design in the first Soldier. Actually, one of the outfits. I haven't looked closely at this. Guard stick. Vintage and well cared for staff. Also happens to be eco-friendly. Okay. Timeless rod. A charming staff carved from a millennia-old tree. The Empress Scepter. A historied staff once offered as a gift to Her Majesty. Gift to Her Majesty. Wizard's Rod. Magical staff once wielded by a formidable spellcaster. I wonder who the wizard is. Some Cetran wizard. Ceremonial staff. Sacred staff used as part of a ritual prayer to the planet. I think you probably meant the Empress Scepter, right? For Her Majesty. Ours? Like this is probably the one? Yeah. Oh, you said that. Plumrose. Bewitching staff decorated with the feathers of a bird known for its beautiful song. The Plumrose bird. Jambon. Superior staff made by the Cetra. Help them protect the planet. Cannot wait for Senior Gallagher to see all the Norse weapons that are affiliated directly with the Cetra. This is a cool looking weapon, like, and also all the Cetra weapons like look super steampunk. Like they look very, or Mako punk. You know, like they look retro futurist, which we really haven't seen a lot of Cetra architecture that matches this aesthetic yet. So it's interesting to see like gears and technology, you know. Mithril collar, identification collar of Mithril make, developed for test subjects in Hojo's research facility. Renegade's collar, a collar made during the war as a symbol of revolt. So once again, more war. Silver collar, collar wrought from high quality metal, said to ward off magical fiends. Amethyst collar, elegant collar embedded with mystical purple gemstones. Golden collar, opulent collar forged from the gold found in a forest stream. That's that good gold, like forest stream gold. You made the mistake of accidentally equipping the no slot Cetra armor. So if you re-equip armor that has appropriate slots, like the material will refill in there. I absolutely did that. Mystic collar, dignified collar once worn by Watchers of the Veil. So that is, by for all intents and purposes, the sort of official name of Red 13's species, the Watchers. That's what they're called, like in, you know, anglicized tongue. So we got like kind of confirmation that they're the Watchers of and the Breezingamen is intricate collar crafted using a technology that surpasses modern scientific standards. So again, this is interesting because we are seeing technology out of the Cetra. So it's like there was this I think, you know, image we have of the Cetra based on everything that we've been shown so far that made them appear to be, you know, a much more minimalist, natural style, you know, civilization. But we're seeing these relics from Cetran civilization that look like, you know, they're straight out of, you know, the future. It's interesting, you know. which is that's the main reason I wanted to look at items. Is there are a lot of little interesting things like that here. Oversized throwing star used by ninjas for Muay Thai. Sturdy hardwood throwing weapon boasting sharp metal blade. Red Viper is super cool. Throwing star that fuses 2 crescent-shaped sickles and deadly weapon. Bird of prey. Tricky throwing star wielded by seasoned hunters of the forest. Crescent sickle. Bewitching weapon whose blade is studded with smaller daggers. The crystalline cross. Throwing star filled with 4 gem-hewn blades. A lot of gems, you know. The Fuma Shuriken, a legendary throwing star said to soar like the wind and strike down evil without making a sound. Purification, by the way, is one of the best new abilities in the game. Yuffie remains a unbelievable beast. Most of the challenges that I've done so because of her ability to build ATB. Okay. And we get this in the Temple of the Ancients, and it's also like it's a Cetra weapon, but it doesn't, you know, they don't say that. But it's got all the same like aesthetic markings. Yellow megaphone. Megaphone designed to help a mascot cheer on their comrades. Iron megaphone, sturdy megaphone, provides considerable resonance. Red megaphone, megaphone that helps its user pour their heart into their cheering. Resounding megaphone, megaphone that allows the user's voice to echo out across hill and vale. What does this look like? There's an aesthetic here that I feel like I recognize, but I don't. Just me doing hail more sweet choco grass. It's Zant from Twilight Princess. You nailed it in one. Crystal megaphone. Megaphone whose gorgeous gems add soothing resonance to the user voice. I think it's also very convenient that there's just floating megaphones in the world. You know? Golden megaphone. A glimmering megaphone used by some to scare off the most ferocious of beasts. So if you're missing weapons, a lot of the weapons, if you are missing them, you just go to a weapon shop and buy them. If you miss them somewhere. And it immediately turns the treasure chest they were maybe in, they were in a treasure chest, into like 2,500 gil. When you find it on subsequent playthroughs. There are a few exceptions. You can only get the Plumrose the Plumrose rod if you complete all of the Hojo simulator challenges in Nibelheim. A room opens up. All right. The Gjallar horn. So this is Odin's horn. A luxurious megaphone passed down from one kitty king to the next. Adorable. Adorable and disrespectful. Also, again, this looks like it's made of technology, right? So there's like this line of Mako powered, like looks like a Mako powered jet engine microphone thing. So the Cetra went hard, you know? They didn't really mess around. And then that's it for weapons because we don't get it or instant weapons yet. A lot of Republic era stuff. You can enhance a lot of these. Silver bangle once worn by knights sworn to protect their queen. Regnant. Their queen regnant. How do you pronounce it? Okay. Does the Kirk will love that? He probably will, because I think there's a better way to say that sentence, but souped up version, the original Alpha Dunk. We're just looking through items right now, doing deep lore dives on items. The Old Beast bracelet. You know why we're doing it? Is because I talked for way too long in the beginning. Like, we can't plausibly do chapter 4 now, so I'm gonna have to do that tomorrow. So instead what we're doing is we're just like looking at weird random lore stuff for the next little bit. Because frankly, it's one of the things I've done the least of. Like, I've looked at the aesthetic, but I haven't read all the item descriptions. Why not do it with you guys now? You know? 310 hours? Yeah, that's legit, by the way. But again, a lot of it is like, who else am I going to get footage from? You know? The Republic Flotilla. Why didn't we visit that? That's got to be a part 3 thing, right? You know? Gotta be. Highly sought after bangle. Every piece of the same design was handcrafted by a single goldsmith. Noble Corral. Armband of warrior who swore to overthrow the invaders who conquered his homeland. Illusionist armband. Perfectly unassuming armband that proves the wearer has nothing to hide. But it doesn't. It's an illusionist armband. It definitely has things to hide. What is... This is sketch, okay? Why is this a sketch piece of equipment? Swallow Song. Finely crafted bracer that evokes the beauty of a bird in flight. Crucible. Refined variant of the Crucible. Yeah, you lose the item description as soon as you enhance it. Chocobo armband. Okay, so this is an important piece of equipment. Armband crafted in the image of the beloved bird whose golden feathers would brighten anyone's day. Triples the amount of AP earned for all materia in this set of armor. So this is a triple AP band. You get this from the Chocobo Sage quest in Niflheim. And your party members gain AP even if they're not in your main party, unless you're doing combat simulators. Does it synergize with AP up? Yeah. Road Warrior Bangle. Stylish silver and leather bangle for pikers born to live free or die. Available for purchase in Cosmo. Nail shell. Unassuming yet beautiful bracelet fashioned from shells unearthed in old ruins. Available in Cosmo. Commander, Spirit Bound. Maybe one day I'll look at the unupgraded versions of this. The Celestial Bangle. A mystical bangle that evokes the boundless majesty of wisdom of the heavens. The Garm Bangle. Bangle purportedly made with the pelt of a fearsome fiend who commanded all the packs of hell. Available for purchase. Again, Mr. Gallagher is gonna freak when he sees this, if he hasn't already. Varvados. A stout bracelet that once graced the Huey army of the Dragon King himself. Available for purchase in the Nebel region. So here's the thing I like about this. So these two things are characters in Loveless. So not only is the original play of Loveless hybridized with the princess play from the OG, the characters are now based on probably real things. There probably was a real Dragon King. There probably was a beast farm. Like, that's awesome to me. Without designated AP getter Sith. A lot of grinding I do in chapter 12 for that purpose. Or I did in chapter 12 for that purpose. It's the raddest thing. It is really cool. It's super cool. Resplendent Bracer. The Yggdrasil armlet. I think I can go to the item transformation and get the description of the Celestial Bangle and the Resplendent Bender and Yggdrasil armlet. Although I have pointed out Yggdrasil before. Yggdrasil is the world tree in Norse mythology. Valkyrian Bangle. Look at this shit. Look at this shit. Just straight God of War. Stunning bangle crafted to capture the glory and divinity of the goddesses drawn to the fires of war. So, Valkyrie being considered goddesses in this iteration of the mythology. There are definite Minerva vibes here, you know. Hades armlet, terrible armlet, created by a conjurer at the behest of a conqueror who sought to triumph over death himself. And the aesthetic here matches, well, Hades from Final Fantasy. The goddess in the play had wings like a Valkyrie. Yeah. Sure. There are finite dark matter in the... Yes, there is. You want more enhanced expeditionary metal. Me too. We all do. Sadly, it is not possible. Veteran Bracer. A bracer that embodies the ethos of the ancients and confers incredible benefit. This is the best armor in the game. The Cetran Bracer. The Cetran armlet is like the same but worse. An armlet that embodies the hopes and dreams of the ancients and unlocks the full potential of materia. Okay. Does this look like the Deathclaw enemy a little bit? This doesn't look... I mean, it looks aesthetically similar to this in like a way, but not really. This looks like it's based on a specific thing. You know? Demon Wall. Then we have the Cetron Bangle. These two, the Cetron Bangle and Armband, have no materia slots. And that sucks about them. It's too bad. A bangle that embodies the resolute will of the ancient and confers supreme physical defense. And it does. It has a very high defense, physical defense stat. Not high enough to matter at all. Really want to... Cetron Armband. Armband that embodies the vast knowledge of the ancients and confers supreme magical defense. There's something to these designs. Interesting. Well, Delta is fine. Accessories. There are some cool accessories. Like aesthetically and probably have it. Protective amulet passed down among the ancients, etc. Champion belt, which, you know, you get from defeating Jules at the sit-up game, the Sir Clay. A lot of them are just from the previous. There's new stuff like this one. Service medal. Strength and magic 5%. Medal of honor 10%. Vitality and spirit by 50. Like, yeah. Grants immunity to petrify and stone. Immunity to Toad, the white cape, you know? No good explanation, but whatever. Bit. I don't even know how you wear this. What, like, how do you equip this? Okay, is this like a choker, a bracelet, in something that goes inside of you? I'm assuming, yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. Swallow it. It's encryption. Star pendant. 5-pointed word. Soothes the wearer in mysterious ways. Okay. Yeah, when you firmly tie something like a headband around your head, it's impossible to be fatigued. If you ever feel like, hey, I don't want to sleep, and you don't have access to like hardcore stimulants. Just do this. Dubichin airs with a smile. I'll never tell T about the about the safety bit. All right. Yeah. Getting late and okay. Protective boots. Boots developed. All right. And psychic charm. A redesign of the psychic charm that's superior in everything. A redesign of the karmic cowl that's superior in everything. So once again, we're getting. We'll probably have to go to the item transmuter to get descriptions. The ribbon. A charming haircut. Secret Oris. Get 2 in the game. And the extra effect of making it harder to interrupt casting spells, pretty handy. Tarot cards again. Rolling crystal. Enhanced Marlboro orb. Redesign. Enchanted ring. Magic ring that ensnares the hearts and mind. He who looks upon it. Extends the duration of beneficial status effects applied to the wearer. Revival earrings. You're capable of restoring one's fading consciousness. Fury ring. This was a big deal. You really needed Fury rings in remake for some like the advanced strats. Grants Berserk at the start of the battle. Increased damage dealt and received. Hermes shoes. Look at the heels. Look at the platforms on that. Grants haste at the start of battle. It seems like it would be more useful than it is. Haste kinda sucks. Alright mates, have a great time. See you on the next Junie. Hey Junie Tunes, thank you so much for joining in. And tomorrow I'm gonna play. You found the Fury Ring useful for rulers of Outer Worlds? Trying to think. If I used a Fury Ring stat. I may have. I saw, okay, after I beat Rulers of the Fury of the Outer Worlds, I talked to other people that had beat it, and because there weren't videos yet, and I asked what party people were using. A lot of people were having trouble with like things like the damage output party, so they were doing like Red and Barrett along with Cloud. I still found it like beneficial to use Tifa and Yuffie. Who did you end up using first? When in the world would the enfeeblement ring be used just for challenge? That, you know, actually, so enfeeblement ring helps you with, you can accidentally over level yourself for certain quests sometimes, especially on replay. And like, for instance, there's a Yuffie quest where like you have to like help this young ninja Padawan like not die, and like in order to complete the mission you got to do things like pressure enemies and stuff like that, but you're so overpowered that like they die before pressuring. And so just from like the passive background attacks of the other characters, I tried Tifa, Cloud, and Barrett, but probably never really hurt. More than for danger. I know. with yeah. So I agree. I had the same, like, the doppelganger thing would like create all sorts of like distraction, damage sponge stuff. Really good. Really good. For me though, also just like the ATB, you know, was, oh my god. So yeah, so for me the ATB gaining that Yuffie was capable of was just like kind of too utilitarian for me to pass up. Any tips for getting Aerith ATB without Spellbound Blast? Materia and items. Aerith had a lot of like strong stuff, and I do like Radiant Ward. Radiant Ward is really, it's pretty OP, but it's still like, he's still very slow at gaining ATB. I found myself sadly gravitating away from Aerith a lot. Once I got into post-game stuff. Like, yeah, like Yuffie sort of replaced Aerith as my magic user. Gi Warrior's Charm. Once worn by a Gi champion that served as a constant reminder of the righteousness of their cause. So I can't wait to get to Cosmo Canyon with you guys, because I think the Gi lore is crazy interesting. I don't think it's black and white. I think that a lot of this will, I think there's like elements of Cetra lore alluding to them not being like these pure white heroes. You know, I think there was even sort of like a low-key implication that they were intolerant to some degree. And I love that for them, personally. I found Aerith's battle against the Magi to be one of the easier ones. Oh, like the solo challenges? Yeah. Actually, Aerith's was super easy. I feel like they did that on purpose. The Cetrans probably are the future that Shinra wants, planetary settlers that can take over a planet's stream. Yeah, I use Aerith with enhanced expedition metal to level 3 limit to give others instant limit. Yeah, so there is a really good supply of limit break, just tomfoolery you can do with Aerith. Like, you can give one character you can give her the enhanced expeditionary medal, and then one character the Goater Damarung, use limit siphon, and then use Aerith's limit 3, and then just repeat limit breaks, like kind of constant. It like strains utility in some instances, but because like limit breaks in particular have, you know, the highest amount of invulnerable iframes, it is a way to like really mitigate damage, and you can just do like, you know, the waiting game, and it's sort of screwed up. I may have misunderstood, but Gilor seemed to imply that the live stream came to their planet from the cosmos. I don't. Can you use Götterdämmerung in hard mode? Yeah. Yeah, that's where you get it, yeah. Award presented to fighters who have demonstrated grit and tenacity worthy of recognition. An award presented to fighters who have defeated all comers and proven themselves a true champion. Yeah, the limit gauge charge rate that you get from these two items is not good enough to justify their use. I've never found that to be functionally useful. Remake, you can't use it in hard mode. Maybe it was just in some VR missions. You could use it and it would still work in with Vice. So in the Vice challenge it said like you can't use Götterdämmerung, but it would still work. It wouldn't instantly charge your limit break, but like an unspoken function of Götterdämmerung is that it has the highest charge rate for your limit break, so it was still beneficial to equip it on somebody in the Vice fight. But yeah, it didn't allow for the instant limit break. The Draconic Ring. Expeditionary Medal. You can get more than one Expeditionary Medal, you just can't get more than one in hand. Increases limit level by 1 at the start of the battle, which is still like kind of useful. The amount of damage Ascension does to a single enemy is very comparable to the amount of damage Finishing Touch does to a single enemy, but Finishing Touch also does a ton more damage to the whole field overall. Medal awarded to the brave members of the military who have marshaled their courage and faced the enemy on the field of battle. Okay. What does that design look like? Looks cool. Limit booster. It's just like a device brimming with passion and fervor that ensures one remains in a heightened state of aggression. What is this thing? I mean, I know what it does, but like you just hold it and you're just like, I'm so mad. And then transference model. Device that converts one's visceral emotions into tangible fury. Spectre Cogwheel. Again, this is a holdover from... There's a lot of reused, like, everything art, too, which is fine. I mean, it was one game before, and it's 3 now, and in the OG, everything you got in the beginning, you had at the end, so... Yeah. No attempt whatsoever to explain why you have lost your things and you have to get new things. Nothing. Didn't even try to explain that in lore. And I'll tell you what, that was the way to go. Don't. You don't have to fill every Ludo narrative gap. Don't. Götterdämmerung. So Götterdämmerung still has the aesthetic of the hilt of the Ragnarok weapon from Final Fantasy VII, which is Cloud's like second best weapon. So it looks like the hilt of Ragnarok. Ragnarok and Götterdämmerung mean the same thing. Götterdämmerung is a like Germanic play musical that means Twilight of the Gods, that depicts the events of Ragnarok. Yeah, Wagner. It's not bad either. Choco King's Cape. Fashionable cape woven with the countless feathers that it awarded the fastest chocobo jockey. So it fills 1 ATB charge at start. So if you have this and say first strike materia, you start the battle with 2 full ATB charges. Which is a good way to like plow through the grind game, you know? The Demon keychain. This makes me sad. Official keychain produced by the passionate fans of the motorcycle madman Roche. Whistling scarf. Scarf that makes the wearer feel as if the wind is at their back. Corsair's compass. Yeah, you have to go through a whole last quest line for this, so it better look super cool. This helps you get Pirate Jetsam, which is like a item necessary for advanced craft. There's a limited amount on the map. Get them all. Compass that once guided an ancient pirate king to both glory and riches untold. Also got lots of gold and purple energy. You know, real sleep easy-ish. Area earrings, which, like, having access to like Aga spells early game, pretty useful. There were a couple times where this was really helpful in, you know, early game dynamic. Ars, did you play in dynamic? Or did you start in normal? You seem like a dynamic. Also saves a materia slot, yeah. Noble Thief's Glove. Worn by a band of thieves, so virtuous, they were thought of as angels. What's this? Angels? Angel of the slums? Perhaps? Pedometer pin. And for those who have transcended the bounds of their humble wheelie and are ready to explore the world with their own 2 feet. Started normal, actually enjoyed the feeling of watching the characters grow as they progress. Dynamic is my plan after I finish hard mode. Just like as a... Like, are you gonna restart? Dynamic, when you're fully maxed in level, feels like a step between hard and normal. Or you're gonna restart from the get-go. One of the things that makes, just for the experience, part of... Okay, so why that's like not as bad of an idea is in hard mode, even though you can reset all of your quest data, you can't redo a lot of stuff. Like, you can't redo the proto relic quest. You can do like the mini games associated with them. You can never go through the story again, you know, like in New Game Plus. So there are experiences that you only get once, no matter what. Enhanced camaraderie earring. Redesign of camaraderie earring. Beast Killer badge. Commemorative badge. Highly respected establishment. Combatants prove their mettle in battle. It is absolutely not a respected place. That place is scuzzy. Box crusher keychain, yeah. It basically gives you like a bloodsucker and MP sucker. I haven't really messed with it. I was so mad at how I had to get it. Crescent Moon Charms. I'm imbued with a fervent desire to be by one's side for eternity. So like the crescent moon charm is like a coupling. Like it's very aesthetically coded to be about like couples. And there's a bunch of stuff in the compilation that alludes to that. There's also the random crescent unit, which is like just Wutai stuff. So it's, and what are you gonna do? A distinguished emblem that purportedly lifts all burdens from the wearer's shoulders. Healing arsenic. Mythical amulet. Looks exactly the same as the expeditionary amulet, just, you know, different. Amulet that exalts the tutelary entities said to keep watch over the planet. Strengthens summons. Moogle! Increases the probability that enemies will drop items when defeated in battle. Which would be awesome if anything of value was dropped or stolen. Speaking of, do you remember, Babyseal, the one thing that I kept joking about regarding what I wanted to see from Vex Badasses? The decoy thing? We need a new game minus. Okay, the Genji gloves. You used morph exactly 0 times. I did it for just whatever, I don't know. Once you assess, there's morphable stuff. This guard's worn by space-time defying bladesmen of legend. So yeah, this is like Genji stuff. Like, look, Gilgamesh is from another world, like in no uncertain terms. But there's a meaningful distinction between whatever his world is and the stuff happening in the inner loop. Yeah, this is like not. This has surprisingly limited uses. Well, it's just weird, but like solo challenges, these are not. Like the Genji glove is fun, and sometimes I would use it just because I wanted to see how much damage I could do. Excuse me again. Genji earrings, set of garish earrings that some might charitably describe as tasteful, but that are nevertheless indicative of pretentiousness. Damn. Item description just given sass to Gilgamesh. Who wrote these item descriptions? Is it Chadley? Increases damage by 50%, but also damage taken by 50%. It's weird. This is basically a Fury Ring. I know. Yeah. You know what would be such a game changer? 2 accessory slots. Good memories of doing 100,000 to Nemesis in 10 with Yuna's Rod. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Genji ring. Stylish ring that has an inexplicably otherworldly air about it. I think there is an explication. It's that it's from another world. So charm. Increases the amount of materials collected. Reclamant choker. Inspired by the ebb and flow of the live stream. That's a DLC, yeah. All the Ours, have you platted yet? Platinumed the game? I do know that we're starting to see like a lot more, well, not a lot more, starting to see launch people plastic. Not yet. I still need to beat the Zack and Sephiroth VR missions as well as finish a few chapters. Some of them are like kind of, some of the normal hard mode battles threw me for a loop. Like, I was surprised. I had trouble with Gene to talk, for instance. I figured it out, but it took me a while to figure it out. Once I figured it out, it was like I wasted a ton of time. Red 13's folio charts his personal growth. Like there's claw marks. Other than that, it's just got the aesthetic. The Watcher aesthetic, I like it. I haven't really looked at Goofy folios. I would buy these if these were like for sale, like get little books that look like the folios from. I would definitely buy them. Can't wait to see these for like Sid and Vincent. I've been played like 5 days, but I need to get back to the grind. I did no life because it was basically 6 days to get it beaten. Yeah, I mean, this is a long game. So, yeah. I think even like people with platinums that at launch have basically still been no lifing it. Actually, I haven't played much. Last week or so, I've been playing another game. Collecting footage for you guys probably. Yes. Here. Go to transmitter. Can I? Oh yeah, I can see the resplendent. Resplendent is appraiser of such surpassing quality that an appraiser declared it to be beyond compare. Okay, but I can make a bunch of, which we could compare it to itself. I'm only taken from a warrior whose tribe, even in death, cannot escape the fetters which rob them of their freedom of life in life. Spirit bound. So that's decoded description, right? Very. Just okay, inner office. The woods mad. I did all the legendary feats on hard mode already. Hard mode story boss is harder. Yeah. Way hard. I want to save my hard mode playthrough for the PS5 Pro this holiday. Not a terrible plan. I will admit I was distracted by the blurriness in performance mode and then the stutter in graphics mode. It was like the first time that those two choices were really hard for me. I just cannot do combat at 30 FPS. Something about it like gives me anxiety or something. but the image quality looks so much better in that mode. So, well, guys, okay. So I didn't really play the game, but it's because, you know, I haven't really got a chance to talk like freely about the game since, you know, I started talking to Night Sky Prince earlier, and I know that not everybody was there, so I wanted to just kind of talk lore with you guys, talk what I kind of thought, and so we got a little bit distracted. Yeah, absolutely. That VOD will go up later. But tomorrow what I'll do is I'm going to start with a lore-focused breakdown of Chapter 4, and I'm not really going to mess around in the beginning, like answering questions or monologuing on the story. But I am available to answer lore questions during that, even if it's not from the chapter that I'm playing. You know, feel free to ask. So tomorrow's 4, Thursday's 5, and so on and so forth. So with that, I'm gonna call it. Hope you guys all have a good one. Yeah, we'll go ahead and call it. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Okay, guys. Laters.